Skaz, if it lasts for longer than 4 hours, especially a Saturday night into a Sunday night, I think I need to seek treatment. Like, that was a great basketball game, an amazing basketball game. The NBA is a better place when the Lakers and Celtics are good. But I want to start off with a question for you, Skaz. Does this win count? LeBron left the game early with a groin. I think it's day to day. I don't think it's going to be week to week. That's kind of informed. It's going to be more day to day than week to week. Luka was getting back treatment. Does that count? Because when he was getting back treatment, he was good. Like, I'm curious before we go into too deep into this. And what a basketball game! And I wish we could see, say, 60 of 82 basketball games like that per season. That Lakers Celtics thing was chef's kiss to what the NBA is supposed to be. But that one counts, right, Skaz?
I feel like I'm having deja vu, Stu. I'm gonna say yes, that one counts, and I'm also gonna say there's a man who you and I both know very well who may have said, did LeBron tap out last night? Did he tap out as some other players did in the playoffs last year? Now I'm not saying that, but that might be tossed around tomorrow night. Who knows?
Oh, I feel like you and Joe Murray have already had this text exchange conversation if LeBron James tapped out or not.
I got a text at about 11:45 last night. LeBron tapped.
So I don't think LeBron tapped out. I don't think it's as important. I can tell you, like, I checked in. Like, it's more day to day than anything else. And with he's 40, and I've seen wrestlers tear groins on less than just doing up fakes on Jaylen Brown. So I will give LeBron the benefit of the doubt. He felt something, and he got out of there as soon as he could. But what a game, Skaz. Celtics beat the Lakers 111-103. Tatum and Brown scored the final 12 points. And assuming health, Skaz, last night just clinched the 2025 NBA championship for the Boston Celtics. They won that game. That's the ultimate green teamer statement, right? Is that a regular season game on a Saturday night that has me all hyped up and lasting longer than 4 hours? That is what clinched it for me. The Celtics didn't come out of the gates great, but they had a good middle, but they won this game without Porzingis. And I think that's an important factor. And I don't know what's going on with Porzingis, but illness, I don't know. I don't want to speculate too far because, like, I thought through this and maybe there's something bigger going on with Porzingis and they just can't figure it out. And I don't want to go any further than that because if I throw a name out at you, that might be a comparison. People are going to be like, oh, no, not that. And so I don't want to do that because I don't know, just to be clear. But if I'm the NBA, I do whatever it takes to make sure that it's Celtics Lakers in the NBA Finals. That thing was great. I hope the ABC ratings come out. But the Garden, it was juiced last night. The ratings, I hope they showcase that, like, yes, this is good for the NBA. The NBA is better when the Lakers are good, when there's star power. The Celtics, I feel like, set the tone physically for this game last night. And that's the starting point, is that they came out physical and they were trailing early, but they came back. It was tied at the end of the first quarter. They went on a run. They had a 22-2 run at one point that spanned over the course of late second quarter into the third. But they came out of the tunnel at halftime and they tried to run away with the game. And I feel like, generally speaking, the Celtics are slow out of halftime. And this time they weren't. And that third quarter, Skaz, they held the Lakers to 21% shooting from the field. And they got 6 turnovers. So that's their defensive intensity. They were executing all over the place. I did know that the Lakers were not going to go quietly, even though the Celtics got out to that big lead, or they created some space. Because 20-point leads in the NBA, if you watch the rest of the league, and most of you people don't, not most of you people, that's a little too strong. Sorry, I had a moment. I'm still I'm jazzed up, right? Like, great game. J. Stu Liquor voice in full effect, like all of it. But I knew the Lakers weren't going to go quietly because they had a big win against the Knicks the other night in overtime, which nobody watched, which you people didn't watch because you don't watch anything other than Celtics basketball, maybe. And they came back. The Lakers came back down 15 with 6 minutes to go, and they won in overtime. So I knew the Lakers weren't going away, but this is what basketball should be about, Skaz. This is what the NBA should be about. Passion, intensity, like all of it. And I thought last night delivered on all accounts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the first things you said there is, they're going to win the title. And I know it's a green teamer take after a regular season game, but that was not just another regular season game. You could tell it from the opening tip, the energy in the building, but I'm not just talking about for us, for them. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown played the entire first quarter. I think B-Rob had that it was the first time all year this season that they played the entire first quarter. And there were numerous sequences in that first where Tatum is throwing his body around Jaylen. Does Jaylen like playing anyone more than he likes playing Luka? And we've had guys, former NBA players, former guys that were on the Celtics tell us that Jason Tatum has a visceral reaction anytime his name is brought up in Luka Doncic comparisons, that he does not like those comparisons, that he takes it personally. And last night, Jason Tatum was the best player on the floor. I was impressed with LeBron last night as well. I thought he did play a really good game, but
he wanted that game last night, Skaz. LeBron wanted that game.
The only thing I'll say about playing the Lakers again in the finals, the only reason I don't want it to happen is because I don't want to have to hear that the Celtics had an easy path again, because they would destroy the Lakers. I think if they played in the finals again, that would be the only reason I don't want to see it. But yeah,
just remember who you're hearing that commentary from, Skaz. Just remember that. Just the sourcing of the commentary is important here.
Absolutely. But I'm
because we don't talk about how Denver had an easy path. And I think Yahoo did a breakdown of how the Celtics had the 20th easiest path, and it made 20th.
Yes.
So that means, if my math is correct, I know math is hard, especially at 9:00 in the morning after we lost an hour because of stupid daylight savings time or whatever they call it now. Give me a 13-month calendar, 28 days, aligned with the moon. Do that. And we'd be in the middle of Smarch right now. Stupid Smarch weather. Simpsons reference, by the way. But keep in mind that the Celtics' easy path was the 20th in NBA history. Denver's was easier, and there were a bunch of others that were easier. There are 19 more that were easier. But that one counts. We established what counts and what doesn't, right?
I think Denver played 2 8 seeds on that run, which is very impressive to do in the NBA.
Yeah, and you're Jimmy Butler, Miami Heat in the finals.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Jaylen Brown on Luka last night, ISO defender, whatever they call it, 9 of 29, 5 turnovers. And here's how you know that Jaylen Brown was not only film studying, as he said post-game, but also, like, he gets amped up for this, Skaz. Like you said, he was jumping for steals on Luka. He was anticipating Luka's moves, and he was getting it right most of the time. That is how you tell Jaylen Brown was locked in and how he wants to I almost cussed there. I don't want to cuss at 9 in the morning. How he wants to put Luka on lockdown. And if you want me to go conspiracy theory on this, I think it's because Jaylen Brown knew that he was almost traded for Luka Doncic years ago. Because I think that there was a play. I think Danny was trying to trade up to get Luka in that draft, and Jaylen Brown was going to be the piece. And I think Danny was like, I'm going to stay with Jaylen because Tatum and Luka could not play together.
No. And Tatum wouldn't want to play with him. I don't think.
And I wanted Luka Doncic. I love Luka Doncic. And then I saw him in the finals last year. I'm like, oh.
That's that's kind of where I was just about to go, is that I love Luka, you love Luka. He's a tremendous offensive talent, but at some point, like, he's labored before the game even starts. Every time we see him, just about. And at some point it comes back to him. Like, yeah, I get it, it's a long season. You're going to get banged up, but you're playing with 40-year-old LeBron James, who is playing, overtime against the Knicks and arguing with Stephen A on the sidelines and all that stuff, and you're in your physical prime, and you can't just get it right for a championship run. So I think a bad night for Luka. He was getting hunted again. The Celtics were really kind of a little borderline disrespectful. They were leaving Pritchard and Hauser one-on-one with LeBron multiple times in the second half. They were saying, "Go ahead, Peyton Pritchard, go cover LeBron James." And LeBron, he got a couple buckets, but Pritchard had a stopper too. So, everything they were doing was working. That third quarter was one of the more impressive quarters of the year. The defense was locked in. I think you mentioned it. They forced 6 turnovers in the third quarter, and I think the Lakers hit 5 shots. So the Celtics had more forced turnovers than Lakers made baskets. So that's a championship level effort. The Celtics have, played championship caliber basketball less this season than last, but last night was certainly, I think their best example of it this year.
Yeah, and I think Missoula circled this game on the calendar based on how he played or didn't play players throughout the last week. I bet Tatum sits against Utah on Monday so that he's fresh for OKC on Wednesday. Tatum played 21 minutes in the first half and scored 22 points. And the other thing with Tatum was that block from behind on Luka. Like, that's a LeBron James level block. That's a Michael Jordan level block. That is a Tommy Heinsohn, God rest your soul. That is a Greg Steamsma block in a preseason game level. That was tremendous. It's Tatum's third 40-point game against the Lakers in his career. That's how juiced up Jason Tatum was for this. You could tell that Tatum really wanted it, and I know that they'll probably be like, oh, Tatum and LeBron dapped up pregame. They like each other. They're friends. It's all business now in the NBA, or for the most part it is. There's 98.5% of the NBA gets along with each other. And if they don't, like, you're ostracized or there's just so much money to be made in pro sports now. That's why there's no more Kurt Rambis, Kevin McHale. There's no more Bill Laimbeer and Larry Bird throwing fisticuffs. There's too much money. People have to be smart with their bodies and everything. But give me more games like this with this. Let's talk about Al Horford, right? Let's talk about Al Horford, who I've been telling you for years is good. Al Horford is good. Al Horford does all these little things. Jason Tatum loves Al Horford. Emphasized it again post-game, which I'm sure offended Derrick White again. But the Lakers were hunting Al Horford last night, right? Clear as day. I didn't just make that up.
Stupidly.
LA was 7 for 23 when Al Horford was the primary defender.
That's bad coaching.
Let me say that again. The Lakers were hunting Al Horford, and LA was 7 for 23 when Al Horford was the primary defender.
That's bad coaching. That's bad coaching on JJ Redick.
And I like JJ Redick as a coach. I really do. I liked his podcast. I was so glad he was an a-hole to us when we had him on last year. I actually had a text conversation with a member of the Celtics because whenever those drops come out, I always get a text being like, oh, it's the interview that keeps on giving. It's great gift. Great gift. But Al Horford showed up for the big game, and he needed to. And that's what Al Horford, I would rather have Al Horford give me 20 games like that and then be ready and healthy for the playoffs and just kind of like go through the rest. But his teammates all love Al. He's got the basketball IQ. He does all the little things. He's been doing the little things for years, and he deserves it. And I'm glad that the Lakers were wrong in hunting Al Horford. One of the things JJ Redick did talk about in his post-game press conference was his plan going in was to attack the Celtics bigs in space and attack the smalls in tight spaces. And he couldn't do it. Could not do it. And he said, I think something got lost in translation.
Yeah, I think what got lost in translation is Luka doesn't want to listen to you, or when the game gets out of hand, they weren't. He said after the game they weren't running the plays he was asking him to run. Basically,
Yep.
It's like, oh, that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. And what you're hyping up to be your biggest game of the year, your players are just flat out not listening to you. And I think
in fairness, Gaz, Isaiah Thomas used to wave off Brad Stevens all the time.
Yeah, well, he was having an MVP year, so I guess depending on who you ask.
But what a game. Here's a few other, as I'm kind of going through like my notes. I have tons of notes from this game, guys. I know you do too.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull mine up.
The Luka adjustment that Redick made was getting Luka the ball higher in screens and empty side ISOs. The Lakers are actually a good passing team. So you shouldn't be making that adjustment just because Jaylen Brown has Luka on lockdown. Like you shouldn't have to do that for Luka. Like LeBron was almost at a triple double at halftime. He ended up with 9 assists. What happened? What happened? You don't have to answer that. That's the rhetorical question.
I'm gonna say Al Horford. Al
Horford happened. Yes, absolutely. Speaking of LeBron, Father Time is definitely slowing LeBron down. And there were 2 instances that I recall and wrote down in my notes that there was a turnover by the Lakers, and there's that great video from long ago where LeBron does the chase down and he blocks the ball from behind. There were 2 opportunities for LeBron to do that. He couldn't get there. Couldn't get there in time. And then LeBron does the up fake on Jaylen Brown around there was 6 minutes to go in the game, I think it was. And he makes the basket on Jaylen. They go back on defense. Celtics get a bucket. Luka's bitching to the officials, and LeBron's got his hand up, being like, "Hey, I have a problem here." So they work on Luka's back, and LeBron's like, "I'm out. I'm going to the locker room," which I think is going to be a day-to-day thing with LeBron. It's not week to week. That's what I believe. But tremendous stuff. Tremendous stuff, Skaz. I got more notes, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was impressed with LeBron last night. I mean, they played Thursday night in New York. No, I'm sorry, they played Thursday night at home against New York, a game that went to overtime. He played a ton of minutes. A lot of guys in that league that are a lot younger than LeBron don't play that hard and don't play as often as LeBron. I saw some crazy stat, and I wish I had it in front of me, but in LeBron's, I don't know how 20 years he's been in the league, 21 years, whatever it is now. He's only sat out the second night of a back-to-back less than 20 times in his entire career. So he's a guy, look, we give Tatum all the credit in the world. He's out there every single night. He deserves credit. Jaylen too. These are guys that don't take a lot of time off, and that's a lost art in this league. It's why, a night like last night in the NBA is something we've kind of lost, recently, load management or whatever you want to call it. Like, no, these guys knew, Mazzulla knew that you're going to tell me Joe Mazzulla didn't treat that like a playoff game? Look at the minutes played for these guys. Absolutely. And
where was Torrey Craig, Skaz? Where was Torrey Craig?
He was jumping up and down on the bench. He's a vibes guy now, but yeah, Torrey Craig, he might be playing a lot against Utah, Jay Stu, if I had to guess.
Mazzulla played 8 last night.
Yeah.
He played 8, and he couldn't keep Hauser on the floor for too much time because they were just hunting him, right? And 0 of 1 in 11 minutes. The murder hornet. I think I heard. I took this down in my notes because I think I heard Grandy on a highlight say on the Luke Hornet dunk. I think he said, "Look around and find out."
Yes, I have heard Sean say that before. Yes.
Okay. That was the first time that I had heard that, and I giggled. I have to tell you, Skaz, I giggled when I heard about it.
It's great. Hey, Luke was all right last night. Their bench was what little of their bench we saw was okay.
-2 for Peyton Pritchard, -6 for Luke, -7 for Hauser.
That's what I was just about to say. I still worry about Hauser and Pritchard more in those matchups. It's just we love seeing them out there. They can make an offensive difference, but you get a coach like JJ Redick who did not have a good night and bad halftime adjustments, but he knows to attack a guy like Peyton Pritchard, and that's what they were doing when he was out there. It didn't always work because Pritchard, he tries, which is something in the NBA. A lot of guys don't do that on the defensive end, but that's small worries from last night. They still can't hit their free throws, which drives me insane, and just their defense off the bench.
Celtics 18 for 25, 72% from the free throw line. Lakers 9 for 14, 64% from the free throw line. The Celtics had a few moments of leaky defense last night where they would miss a shot, and if there was a Laker player at the top of the 3-point line, there was one instance that I think ABC highlighted where he just snuck out the back door on Pritchard, and the Lakers, I think they threw at least 2 touchdown passes off of missed shots. So the Celtics got to clean up that detail. It's like a small detail, but that thing will get that'll hopefully get like Pritchard's got to grab his man and make sure he doesn't shoot down for a layup off a missed shot. Like that's one of the psychology things about shooting 3-pointers is that everybody can get back quicker on defense. And if Pritchard's just going to watch a missed shot from the other side of the court, like we can't have that.
No.
Take away his 6th man of the year. Do it now. No, I'm kidding. What else?
I wanted to ask you, Jace, too.
Yeah.
What did you think of the return of Drew Holiday last night?
He was fine. I was not as focused on Holiday, but I thought he was fine. I felt like he was efficient. But there wasn't anything that like stood out to me about him coming back, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Unless you saw something in real time that stood out, but I was more on like Tatum, Brown, LeBron. So like if there's something you want to talk about.
No, I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of with you.
It was just like a steady, he's back, everything is calm type of thing maybe.
When the game first started, he made a bad pass, and then he smoked a layup right at the beginning, and I was like, "Oh boy, he's tentative, he's scared, he doesn't want to get hurt again." And then after that, it seemed like he kind of got the jitters, whatever you want to call them, like just he's rusty, he hasn't played. And then he was back to Drew Holiday. He didn't look as good as he has, but I thought he hit a couple shots, his passes were fine, and he was moving his feet. That's all you're looking for out of Drew Holiday. So yeah, I was a good sign. I still think have the surgery, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, like steady. Like is that like I was a little Bertrand and I were having this conversation. He was doing NBC Sports Boston. And the conversation was around like, who's the Celtics MVP that isn't Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum? And my instinct was to say Porzingis, right? But it's like, he hasn't played enough. And eventually we came up with, he said Derrick White. And I said, Derrick White is the correct answer. So there was a point in the game last night where I'm like, Derrick White's kind of quiet. And that was concerning. And then Derrick White got hot. Or Derrick White was making impactful plays, and here we are, we're off to the races. And that goes to a bigger point, like Derrick White's importance to the Celtics. I actually got to find this stat. Derrick White is he's the most important non-Tatum and Brown player that they have. People will say Porzingis because he's a cheat code, but like Derrick White being Derrick White and doing all these detailed things around them and scoring the basketball and making important shots and playing steady defense and having block shots. Like Derrick White is really an under-discussed point of the Celtics' success. I need to find...
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think especially in the Eastern Conference, like with the guard play in the Eastern Conference, Derrick White is a cheat code. Like you said, he's a guy that can play defense, can get hot when you need him to. And that's a lot of teams would be lucky if they had Derrick White as their number 2, and the Celtics are lucky he can be their 3, their 4, their number 2 at times. He can even be their 1, in a bench unit if they really need it. So Derrick White's been tremendous. Just another guy. He's like guard Horford almost, where he just doesn't really make mistakes. He's in the right spots. He takes good shots. He's responsible. He's going to get back on defense, and he's kind of a pest. And that's what you love from him. He's everywhere.
So the stat that I gave to Mark was from the Memphis to Houston series of games, 22 games, 12-10 the Celtics record. Derrick White 14.3 points. From Chicago to Portland, that's 15 games. Celtics 12-3. Derrick White averaging 19.1 points. So that's a statistical thing with the Lakers win and the Philadelphia win. That would bring it to 14-3 and 19-ish points per game. But that's the value of Derrick White. And I know I really forced that stuff in because I wanted to get research in there and let you know that Mark and I are friends and we talk off the air.
That's legit, though. That's tangible information. Like that's the Celtics win more.
Oh, and he's turning the ball over less in the latter stretch.
They win more games when Derrick White is scoring, and I think he's out of that slump, and hopefully he can ride this right into the playoffs.
Yeah. So this is a good thing, Skaz, that the Celtics clinched the NBA championship last night with the win.
Start the parade.
Start the parade. Let's get the parade route going right now. I think that empties out my notes from last night's game, Skaz. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on?
Let me just take a quick peek here. The Jaylen thing, I thought we pretty much touched on. There was one thing that Missoula. I'm sorry, it wasn't Missoula. It was the Celtics social media. Did you see what they tweeted?
I don't want to talk about the trade.
Yes, which I kind of like that stuff. I think that's good. That's get on social media, have a little fun, like a little rivalry. But the Celtics aren't a team that usually tosses stuff out like that last night. And I'm sorry, but if you don't know what we're referencing is when the Luka trade happened to the Lakers, someone asked Joe Mazzulla about it, and he said, no one even asked him about it. He just walked up to the podium and was like, don't ask me about the trade. I don't care. So then in the final seconds last night, as the Celtics are winning, their Twitter account posts Joe Mazzulla saying, don't ask me about the trade. I don't care. And as a green teamer, Jay Stu, I have to admit, that tickled me. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
It did. I saw that and I was like, oh, that's great. I liked it in that moment. I don't want them doing too much of that.
I would agree. Yeah.
Right? Like balance it out. Like that made sense. That made us laugh. But like it should be a little bit of a distance before they do something like that again.
I would agree. That just, that one, it was up on a tee for him. It almost felt like they had to.
Yeah. Any other league notes? Like, do we care that Joker had 30, 20, and 20?
The only thing I'll say about Jokic is I don't understand how people think SGA is the MVP. I watch a ton of basketball. I love SGA. He is a tremendous, tremendous player. Nikola Jokic is doing stuff that Wilt Chamberlain didn't do. He is a freak's freak. He is the best basketball player in the world. And any conversations about MVP, if you take SGA off the Thunder, Chet's a stud. Jalen Williams is a stud. They have guys, Caruso, like they have a decent roster. I'm forgetting guys too, but Nikola Jokic is the Denver Nuggets. I'm sorry. What he's doing on a nightly basis is absolutely insane. And I know voter fatigue and all these things happen. And, people in the East will – Jason Tatum's not winning the MVP. It's not happening.
He's on Basketball Reference. Tatum is 4th right now.
He should be 3rd, I think, but –
Jokic has a 65% chance of winning the MVP.
Oh, really?
SGA is at 27%. Giannis at 2%, and Jason Tatum at 1.3%.
Well, those odds make me feel a lot better because the gambling world has SGA at like minus 400 to win this thing, and I love SGA. He's a tremendous player. He's not better than Jokic, and he's not more valuable than Jokic. So that's the one thing I just can't wrap my head around.
So I think Denver is 2nd in the West now with the Lakers losing last night. But the win-loss record, it's a 10-game gap between SGA and Jokic, and maybe that's the reason. Maybe. I'm just guessing here, Skaz.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, that because I tend to agree with you that there's a voter fatigue thing with Jokic. I mean, as you said, he's the Denver Nuggets. Like that's the guy. I would say that you would put him as the reason for them winning 41 games more than anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, is Jokic a great defender? No, but he's serviceable enough. Like he's good enough.
He's a smart defender.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. And so there are players in the league who basketball mind-wise know what's coming. Right? Because they study the tape. And there's a great video from the finals years ago where Jokic is at the free throw line and he's kind of leaning in and listening to the Miami Heat players. And he just does the pistol motion, right? And because the Heat are going to run the pistol offense play. And he's trying to get everybody's attention behind him and just go like pistol, like, but not say it so that the Heat like know that they know what's coming, but he's trying to be like, hey, alert here. Like, hey, this is coming, this offense. Heat go down the floor, they run the pistol offense, and they get a turnover off it. Like, that's thinking within the game. Even if Jokic's body can't do what he wants it to do, he can alert everybody else, like, hey, this play is coming. And this is the layers of defense that really, like, I think NBA fans could handle it, but it just doesn't draw like the over the top, like me saying Anthony Edwards doesn't know how to play the game. Like, that's a general headline topic. But if you go through the layers of why I think that, nobody cares. They're just like, oh, he doesn't think Anthony Edwards can play the game, or, Giannis isn't a basketball player. It's like the Garrett Crochet. He's a thrower, not a pitcher. And you know the difference when you see it.
Absolutely.
And so, like, you have all these players with great talent, but like Tatum and Brown and Horford and White and Holiday are all basketball players. They are top-notch basketball players. They're high IQ basketball players. Jokic is a high IQ basketball player. SGA might be that. I can't promise you that he is. Giannis is just like athleticism, can do a bunch of stuff, but I don't know that he's a basketball player. And as I've yelled and screamed about this in the past, like, I think 75, 80, 85% of the league are not basketball players. They're just people who play basketball at the highest level, but they can't adapt. This was something that was a problem with the Lakers for a while. And JJ Redick is like, no, I want these players to be smart, and they know layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 adjustment.
Yeah, and I think you saw that with, early Thunder teams with Harden and Westbrook, guys trying to figure out how to play together, guys that want to run, guys that are just athletic. So I'm with you. The Celtics have a very unique situation where they have a team full of basketball players.
And they love basketball, Scaz. I'm sorry. They love basketball.
You're right.
And
They're
that's where
junkies.
70% of the league might not love basketball. They just kind of play it. Like, there are Red Sox players who have old Red Sox players who have great relationships with, who hated baseball, but they could make money at baseball. And they were very clear about it. And they were good players. They were on championship teams, but they only played baseball because they could make money. There are people who just play basketball because they can make money. JD Drew.
And I'm with you. And I see we got a comment in our chat here that says Jaylen isn't a basketball player. And
Jaylen Brown is absolutely a basketball player, Boston Sports Archive. He's a smart basketball player. And I can tell you firsthand that because I was there draft night when you people in the TD Garden booed Wick's announcement of Jaylen Brown being drafted by the Boston Celtics because you people wanted Jimmy Butler. I did too, by the way. I wanted Jamal Murray to be drafted, but Jaylen Brown was drafted by Danny Ainge. I think he overruled the room. I think the room either wanted Buddy Hield or Dragon Bender. Remember Dragon Bender and the propaganda that was put out there? I wanted Jamal Murray. He went with Jaylen Brown because Jaylen Brown actually wanted to do his workouts against an actual player, not the stupid chair and the stupid broomstick. That's what I believe because I was there. And if you don't believe me, now I'm pissed off. If you don't believe me, check the security camera from there. There's 90 minutes of security video of me walking around talking to all the people I know in the Celtics organization, telling me why he was drafted, what they loved about him, what the stupid Jimmy Butler trade would have been. It would have been 316, 20-something. The pick that would have been Jason Tatum, Bradley, Tatum, Bradley, Crowder, whoever else. It was essentially 7 players for Jimmy Butler, which you would have hated, Scaz, and it wouldn't have gotten the Celtics Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. And I was wrong because I would have probably made that trade for Jimmy Butler because I bought into the Jimmy Butler hype. But they were patient. Danny knew what he was doing in getting Jaylen Brown because he was a basketball player. He's definitely a basketball player. And he talked about the athleticism that it takes to be in this league. And he shaped his body. And you know how I know that he's smart and intelligent is that every year he has worked on a deficiency that he feels like he has. He had a turnover issue. He worked on his left hand. He got in better shape. He's got vengeance because he wasn't on the All NBA team, so he went out there and he got the playoff MVP of the Eastern Conference, the Finals. It could have went to Derrick White, it could have went to Holiday, it could have went to Tatum, but Jaylen Brown had the ass, and he improved every single year. And that's how I know he's a good basketball player. He's smart. He talks about sacrifices all the time. Like, whatever it takes to win, that's a basketball player. Now, does he execute well all the time? No. But he's taking the mistakes that he makes and he's adjusting and he's getting better. A lot of NBA players don't do that. Jaylen Brown does that. And he's smart. He's got a high basketball IQ. And I'm sorry if that offends you that people are smart. I'm sorry that basketball players are smart and they adjust and they understand what they need to do to improve.
Yeah, I'm with you. Jaylen Brown also plays defense, which is something 80% of the league doesn't do. So yeah, if you're still doing the Jaylen Brown thing, you're A, just not a Celtics fan, B, not a basketball fan, C, a moron, or D, all of the above, which is where I'm leaning in this case. But for me, it's
Jaylen Brown. Just one last thing, Skaz, and I'm sorry I ranted. I went 5 minutes above what we were going to do because that comment just annoyed me, right? And I'm still kind of like hungish over from last night and Jaylen Brown on Luka Doncic. We started the podcast with this: 9 of 29, 5 turnovers, and Jaylen Brown studied so much film on Luka Doncic that he was anticipating correctly. That's a basketball player. F off.
Yeah, absolutely. Jaylen Brown is tremendous. You've seen his growth every single year. He certainly has a higher basketball IQ than Luka. I would say that's without question. Also, another thing on Jaylen Brown is he steps up. You just said this, but he steps up every single year, and he takes it personally. I don't think there are enough guys in professional sports that still get pissed off, that still feel slighted, that Jaylen Brown got the contract, and guess what? He's still out there locking up Luka. He's still taking care of his body. He's not Pablo Sandoval. He's not James Harden. He's not someone that's just, throwing it in. So yeah, I truly don't think you watch basketball, or you might watch, but you have no idea what you're actually watching if you think Jaylen Brown doesn't have a high IQ. This same guy also said that SGA only has like 2 games under 25 points this season. So then Carmelo Anthony should have been the MVP every year he was in the league, or Kevin Durant should have been the MVP of the league because he averaged 31 time and won 1 scoring title. So that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in actual basketball players, guys that play, rebound, assist, score, make their team better. And no one does that more than Jokic. And Jaylen Brown this is the thing too with the Celtics. And I know we're going long here, but
go archive yourself, somebody says.
Yeah, love that. Love that. That's tremendous. But the thing is, look at the NBA. The Celtics are in a uniquely lucky spot with the 2 guys they have in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I'm not going to name names, but if you look at other superstars in the league, guys that have been anointed, guys that are, have aura, all this stuff.
Joel Embiid, name names, guys.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards, not a great guy. Has a little bit of stuff going on off the court too. I don't know if you're aware of, but those are the guys that the league has said is, the face. You guys, maybe they're regretting some of those decisions now. The Celtics are uniquely lucky in the fact that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown love basketball. They are addicted to basketball. They are addicted to winning basketball. They also have a psychopath for a head coach that is also addicted to basketball. That doesn't happen in the NBA. There are teams that are led by guys who don't really care about basketball. They'll tell you they care. They'll smile and give you a laugh and have fun with the media, but they're not locked in the offseason. They're not on the court. They're not doing underwater workouts in the middle of the summer, jumping out of the pool like Jaylen Brown is. They're off somewhere with a lot of doing, hanging out in the seaport, as I think you guys would refer to. So
there was a point in time where there were a lot of Celtics who were in the seaport too. So.
Yes, and now they've gotten a little older, a little more mature, and they're winning basketball games. The Boston Celtics and Boston in general are extremely lucky to have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
All right, we're gonna end on that because otherwise I'm gonna cuss and I don't want to cuss. So Skaz, good show. Good show, good game.
Absolutely. That was a great one.
Yeah. Jaylen Brown on Luka, 9 of 29, 5 turnovers. Just want to that. And the Celtics have clinched the NBA championship. So we'll leave on that note.
Love it. Love it.
Until next week, guys. Thanks for tolerating me at 9 a.m. in the morning, and maybe a little hungover and a little whiskey voice and a little energetic. All right, we're gonna end the stream now. Goodbye, everybody. Happy green team. OKC this week. Yes. That'll be a good one, and it won't cost your mortgage payment to get into the game either.
Beautiful.